We as a society have got to start recognizing the value that a home care aide brings to our society. 4 hours of having a home care aide in a home can absolutely impact and reduce the numbers of times that we go to the ER or hospital. With that aide in the home, they can watch to make sure no one falls. They can make certain that that person takes their medication, the right dose at the right time. They can make certain that that person is eating nutritious meals. All of that helps reduce those costly aspects of healthcare.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a local nonprofit providing older adults in the Northeast neighborhood of San Francisco with support to help age in place. I'm Lynn Winter-Gross.
Here at Not Born Yesterday, we know that Americans are living longer, and as we age, most of us want to stay in our own homes. We imagine we'll be able to care for ourselves forever and won't even consider the alternative. But unlike other major life transitions, there's little information to guide someone who suddenly must make adjustments to their home, career, schedule, and finances when they need to hire a caregiver. We might fall or our health changes and we need assistance. So many of us look first to our adult children or other family members for help. This can be complicated, especially if the children are working, have families of their own, or live far away.
When family isn't a possibility, many older adults choose to hire professional caregivers to come into their homes and help with a wide variety of domestic and personal tasks. As we have experienced through the pandemic, increased numbers of isolated seniors needed caregivers, but trained workers weren't available. Today, we want to examine the current state of caregiving in this country and how we can work to improve it. The Home Care Association of America recently released a report on caregiving. The report discusses industry challenges and new policy priorities for in-home care in the United States. The report calls on the home care industry leaders and policymakers to unite around initiatives that address the rapidly growing demand for care and to help Americans age in their own homes with comfort, safety, and independence. Here to talk about the report is our guest today, Vicki Hoag. Ms. Hoag is the Chief Executive Officer of the Home Care Association of America. It's the industry's leading trade organization, representing home care agencies and their suppliers across the country. Before joining the national organization, she served as CEO of the Home Care Association of Pennsylvania. Her personal experience as a family caregiver and in hiring professional caregivers in her home has given her a compassionate perspective. Vicki, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you, Lynn. It's great to be here with you and Miriam.
So, Vicki, a study showed there's a national shortage of paid home care workers. Why is there such a shortage?
Well, I think, Miriam, there's many reasons. I think there is, number one, the wages and benefits for people who are our professional caregivers tend to be on the lower end. And while it is absolutely improving, that is one barrier to people entering this profession. I think the other reason is that it's not just like you would, be a cashier or a waitress. People who enter this field have to have that empathy, have to have good communication skills. So, during this countrywide workforce shortage, it's just not home care. We hear about hospitality jobs, restaurants. I always say, I understand that everyone is having this problem, but please don't clump us in with those other types of jobs, because this job is a job that requires empathy. It requires understanding and respect. It's a tough job. When you're dealing with someone who needs help, whether it be, with just a routine activity of daily living, like bathing or grooming, this is something that if that person is recuperating from surgery, they're not in their best frame of mind. So sometimes it takes some understanding, it takes motivation. And so I think that's a reason. I also think that historically, this country has not valued these workers. And, I always think about this. When we look at the people in our country that really do meet human need when we need it the most, like social workers, child daycare workers, why is it that these workers that are so important to our society are usually not highly regarded and their pay is pretty low? So one of the things that our association recognizes right off the bat, and let's be real clear, when you as an individual need home care, you go to an agency, and these agencies are small businesses, right? They're small businesses. So they also have to make sure that they have a little bit of margin to stay in business. So the trick that we're facing right now in this industry, and it's really important for everyone, all of your listeners, to know that when people receive the type of care we're talking about today, this is not paid for by Medicare. Now, Medicare does pay when you come out of a hospital and you need nursing or you need therapy. That is a Medicare benefit, right? But when you need this type of care that we're talking about, the type of care that I refer to as personal care, I'm having trouble. I had a mild stroke. I'm, just on a walker, so I'm not so fast. I need help into the shower. I need help with that's what we're talking about today. That's not paid for by Medicare. So we're talking about pretty much people, I like to refer to it as family funded. It's family funded care.
Vicki, who is the typical home care worker?
Good question.
And are they trained, and where are they trained?
Yeah, exactly. Typical 45 women. A third of our workforce that are doing home care aid services are people who have not been born in this country. So they're immigrants. There are minorities, and they're aging themselves. And so we have to figure out, how do we pull in younger people into this field? Perhaps it is a precursor to be going into becoming a nurse. As far as the training, Lynn, is concerned, this is what really is difficult too. It depends on the state. If you're living in California, California has a certain number of hours and competencies. But if you're looking at Pennsylvania, we have different training requirements. Only 30 states in our country license home care agencies. And when I say that, I mean home care agencies that are doing this personal care, supportive care. Only 30. 20 don't have any requirements. So one of our issues, one of our priorities is getting a license in those 20 states. Ohio just passed a law, so we're working on Ohio, but you'd be surprised at the states that don't license this at all.
What can we as consumers do to make sure that the work of a caregiver is valued? Is there a way to make caregiving a real career with support and training?
I think we as a society have got to start recognizing the value that a home care aide brings to our society. 4 hours of having a home care aide in a home can absolutely impact and reduce the numbers of times that we go to the ER or hospital. With that aide in the home, they can watch to make sure no one falls. They can make certain that that person takes their medication, the right dose at the right time. They can make certain that that person is eating nutritious meals. All of that helps reduce those costly aspects of healthcare, such as, going into the ER because you didn't take the right medicine or you forgot to take the medicine, or falling and not having someone there to watch.
Let me ask you, Vicki, you represent agencies.
Yes.
What about healthcare workers who come under contract, that people get private, and how are they screened or tested or trained?
And Lynn, I get it. I guess that's one of the things I worry about right now. Our agencies are telling me that in a given month, they're turning away 30 to 40 clients because they don't have staff. So what's a family to do? Well, they'll look to their neighbor, their church, and they'll hire someone. And I totally understand that. Sometimes families have to do that. And I feel bad about it. So I always say, I get it. Try to protect yourself as much as you can.
I talked to a home health care worker yesterday, and she said, I don't want to work for an agency. I can make more money working on my own.
That's right, Lynn. I'm sorry, I cannot debate that. I get it. But again, I would just hope that the family should draw up an agreement then. Seriously, get a lawyer, just spend an hour and do an agreement. You've got to protect yourself. And of course, you've got to protect your loved one.
Is there a difference in skills between those who do housekeeping and prepare meals and those who have to lift heavy patients out of their beds and get them into the shower, or even give medical care like injections or monitor blood pressure, things like that? Is that a different skill, or is everyone expected to do that?
It's a different skill, and it goes back to what's your state license allow you to do as a home care agency providing personal care. And again, what we're seeing is that, we also have a shortage of nurses. And we're also seeing that, just like a lot of other professions, our home care aides, if trained properly, can do a lot of those things if they're trained properly. But right now, many states, you'll laugh at this, but many states will not allow our home care aides to pick up a pill because they think only a nurse can do that. Or we fought very hard to allow our home care aides to give eye drops. Now, you both know what's a common occurrence as you grow older: glaucoma, surgery, and people just need eye drops. That's hard to give it to yourself, right? That's not, but we have many states that don't allow our aides to do that. That goes back to elevating the profession, training more, making them part of the healthcare team, which they are. They're underutilized.
What are the things that you're pushing for on a national level?
The one at a national level is national standards for home care agencies. While I've been talking about state license, pushing for that, in the meantime, the ultimate goal is to have some kind of a national standard, just like we do for CNAs in nursing homes. There is a national standard, a test that is given across the board.
I was talking to a friend this morning who's had home care for quite a while. Her husband had Parkinson's. And she said the most important thing to her was that she could learn from the caregiver, that the caregiver knew how to do things that she didn't know how to do. I don't think anybody thinks about that and respects that. And
so much.
And I just wondered, is there a deduction? We talked about the contract, that you said people could have a contract. Is there a deductible expense for this? Can you take it off your taxes? Do you have to pay payroll taxes and withholding for the person? And does
really
anybody
shouldn't.
teach you how to do that?
That's where the lawyer would come in there, I think. Yeah. And, of course, some people fly under the radar, right? They don't pay their payroll taxes. I would worry about that. And the workers' comp, I would just make sure it's under your homeowners, that if that person gets hurt lifting or something like that. Yeah. And that's another thing that we're really advocating for in Congress. There's a bill, it's called the Credit for Caring Act. I love the name. And it would provide a tax credit to families who are providing care to a loved one. Just to offset, they would have a tax credit that they could take at the end of the year for what they're paying home care agencies for. Do you know that thing has been in Congress for 3 sessions and we can't get it passed? We were hopeful with President Biden because he mentioned it, and then at the nth hour it was pulled. And AARP, so we had 110 national associations supporting this, because this is like, thank you families for planning ahead, paying, doing the right thing, keeping your loved one at home. And here, this is the least we could do for you, right? Never passed. It's still there. And yet, what did get in the bill was that we give tax credits for people who buy electric trucks. Now, again, I just think the whole aging of America needs to get better at advocating, and you are doing everything you can, and you should be commended for that. But there's got to be this moment in time when this country realizes that this group of people are getting older by the minute, and we're not ready to take care
Thank you, Vicki, for this informative discussion.
of it. Thank you.
On news you can use today, we're going to talk about memory. Nothing seems to depress people more as they age than finding that they can't remember a word or a book title when talking to friends. And when they do remember the word, it may be 10 minutes or 10 hours later, but at least they're relieved. Science writer Jane Brody referred to this as delayed recall. Others think of it as an indication of mental decline. But according to Dr. Richard Restock, author of The Complete Guide to Memory, The Science of Strengthening Your Mind, there are tools that can really help improve your memory, and memory decline is not inevitable with aging. Dr. Restock writes that there are different kinds of memory, like immediate recall and long-term memory, but the most important is working memory. This falls between the other two and is tied to intelligence and concentration. He says that this is the most critical type of memory, and that exercises to strengthen those require daily practice.
For example, he says we must pay attention. Some memory problems are not really about memory, but about attention. If you forget someone's name you just met, perhaps you were really talking to other people at the same time and didn't really pay attention when you were introduced. Dr. Restock suggests visualizing the new information. That will help with the recall. The easiest example is if you meet a new person whose name is King, picture the person with a crown on his head, and it will help you remember his name. Another suggestion is to memorize something, even as mundane as a grocery list. Make the list, take it with you, but first try to remember everything that's on it before you look at it. Or try not using your GPS one time. See if you can navigate by memory. Not surprisingly, he also suggests that we play games to help our memory. 20 questions is a good game because it causes you to keep all the previous answers in your mind as you work for the final answer. Technology has a huge effect on memory. Remember when you knew the phone numbers of all of your family and friends? The doctor says this was technological distortion. Now we don't even bother to remember the numbers because we load them all onto our cell phones. And then there's technological distraction. So much of technology allows us to do things that take away from our concentration on the task at hand. We check email while watching a television show or talking with a friend or even walking down the street. We no longer focus on the present moment, which is critical if we want to keep our memories.
My favorite bit of his advice is that we should all be reading novels. He said that reading fiction makes us engage with the characters and the text, keeping in mind what happened on page 10 so we understand an action on page 20. Finally, Dr. Restock says there is no simple answer as to why we forget things. He says it's normal to forget your room number in a hotel, but not normal to forget your home address. Or you may forget where you parked your car, but it's concerning if you don't remember how you arrived at the parking lot. If you're continually worried about your memory, consult a medical expert.
That's our podcast for today. Our thanks to our guest, Vicki Hoag of the Home Care Association of America. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstad is our engineer. And thanks for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at nbypodcast@nextvillagesf.org. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.